Hi, greetings. This is Bolanile Patterson. This is my first live uh, podcast for Women Healing Globally, where I'm just taking a chance. A lot has happening in my life, good things, lessons learned, right? But I just want to go ahead and really start and kind of tell you a little bit about myself, who I am, and what my goal and mission is here. Let me put my glasses back on. I don't know why I'm acting like I can see without them. But anyway, so this is Women Healing Globally, and it is a 9 dimensions of health and wellness platform. This is intended to actually help us to heal from those 9 dimensions that we deal with in the whole aspect of ourselves, right? One of the things that has been dear to my heart is that mental health has really been a challenge for African American, particularly African American women and men, but my focus has been just on healing the women. Or let me just start there and do my part, right? But also realize that usually out of those 9 dimensions, there is usually maybe an imbalance, a disconnect, something that says, hey, what can I do? Why am I feeling like I'm not mastering this level of complexity about myself? Why am I not actually healing? Why do I keep repeating the same patterns over and over again, right? Whether it be in career, whether it be financial, whether it be your emotional dimension, whether it be social dimension, intellectual, spiritual environment. So there's, like I say, 9. And so I try to cover each week each week about delving into what is missing, what roadblocks are we, what signs are we missing about why we're having these imbalances in our lives. So, and for us to really connect. So today, let me stop rambling. So today, and forgive me because I'm still new to this. So y'all can judge me if you want. But my whole thing is that so I'm gonna be kind of just trying to go over the prompts and stick with what my goal is for today. This is really me also taking a leap of faith on myself. I want to I believe God has led me, the Most High has led me to share this aspect of me. It's a lot of me getting past my fear by being vulnerable, being transparent, and stepping into kind of an ownership of what skill set and gifts I have to offer, you know, and in hopes that someone can relate, someone can say, you know what, that's real, I got this, yeah, I get it, right? And want to connect with other like-minded women. And this is a global effort on my part. It's huge, the vision is huge, but I believe that the Most High will equip me and equips us with all that we need. All we need to do is be brave enough and courageous enough to start. And so here I am starting. Okay, so again, Bolanile Patterson. This is our second episode, and we're exploring again the 9 dimensions of health and wellness. Today, we're going to be focused on social dimension, as I had mentioned earlier. That is part of the 9. Specifically, social awareness among women, amongst each other. Um, I have had my own, I guess, what can I say? I've had my own issues with women, right? And I'm a woman, I get it. But I think now that I've gotten older and I'm continuing to do the inner work to connect the dots to find out why I am not connecting or having relationships with women where maybe I am uh, uh, silently sabotaging those relationships, having some hidden uh, insecurities and resentments and things like that, right? Um, even though I don't intentionally uh, have any maliciousness against women in general. But I'm saying that usually the connection to your past shows up in these 9 dimensions, which is why I want to talk about it. So, we're going to delve into this, into how we relate to one another, what shapes our intentions, our interactions, the deeper truth about what is really unspoken among women, right? So I like to also just clarify what is the social. I like to explain the definition of what the dimension actually means, the Webster form, right? So, what social dimension is? Social dimension refers to how we relate, connect, and interact with ourselves, others, and within community spaces. Also, how we exchange relational patterns and environments as we engage in our day to day lives, right? Social wellness shows up in relationships with self identity. Me, got to start with you, right? Your own self worth, family dynamics, mothers, daughters, relatives, friendships and community, romantic relationships, workplace interactions, spiritual and community spaces. For me, all of these things stick out. If anybody is here, please go ahead and type something in the chat about, does any of those relate? Have you had to deal with family dynamics? A daughter, a mother, are you an auntie? Are you a cousin of a woman or a young lady that you've had to deal with some things about your own interaction with that, your own patterns with that? Right, wrong, or indifferent, positive or negative, it doesn't matter. It's just about, have you decided to be honest with yourself, right? Excuse me. And so, yes, so at the core, how do I show up in the relationship? What patterns am I participating in? Hmm. Can anybody ask that? Answer that for me. At the core, how do I show up in relationship to women? Well, I guess this is the part where I actually start sharing um, my story. I am 57 years old now, so to be exact, 3 now adult children. My daughter is my is the oldest. She's 35, 36, and I have 2 sons, 31 and 29. And a grandson who's 19. So, yeah, you get the drift. But nevertheless, I'm saying that to say that, with that being said, my relationship, because I was raised not in the non-traditional sense, where I was raised in foster home, I knew my mom, someone we interacted when up to when I was around 13 years old. And then I went into foster care from there. I went into 2 foster care homes, in which I kind of, like what they call, graduated out of into adulthood. When the state, and they give you an apartment and they help to pay your rent, blah 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 blah, right? And so, but I say this with my mom because my mom, though an educated woman, a beautiful woman, she was part of the civil rights movement in New York. Very pro-black, pro everybody, boo who they are. She was one of the people who did these things, who showed up when for the LBG community when it wasn't even popular. You see what I'm saying? Um, so I'm not, those are things that, I was at her 8th grade. When I was in 8th grade, my mother is a black and white photographer, and her work is known in the museums and different institutions, in, at least I know, in Chicago, Illinois, and in New York. And she's also a writer. But because I haven't had this interaction with my mom, and my mom and I never developed a mother-daughter relationship, I guess in the normal sense, I missed a lot of how to interact with myself and relations to women. My mom, I want to just make this clear, because this women healing globally is also about us addressing our mental health as women. It's important, particularly I'm not saying that to disclude anyone, but the fact remains is that African American women statistically have had to deal with high rates of depression and suicide and mental health disorders and addictions and things like that. And it doesn't make us any better or less than anyone. These are just real statistics, things that we've had to bear, and with our men and with our children and with life in general. It just seems so we've been given a task that or a cross to bear that some other, maybe culturally speaking, have not had to deal with. That doesn't mean that ours is any less, like I say, or better than anyone's. But the fact is, it's just what it is. That's in my humble opinion. Um, so let's get into that. So the social wellness shows up, relationship with self and identity, self-worth, family dynamics, mothers, daughters, relatives, right, blah, 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 right? Romantic relationships, workplace interactions, spiritual community spaces. So I said that to say that I was never one, because I did not have the normal, I wasn't really raised with my mom up until 13. And even now I have not seen her since she came to my house when I lived and raised my kids in Minnesota when they were very, very little, like 2 and 3, 5 maybe. And she came and she stayed at my house. I was living in a townhouse in Minnesota at the time, and I was married. And she just I didn't understand mental health and mental illness at the time. My mom struggled with that. So again, I didn't have the interaction with her. So I was all about being, I'm going to show her, right? My mom didn't want to come out. She was kind of like stayed in a room, secluded. And I was like, okay, well, man, like, you're supposed to be wanting to come out and hang out with your daughter and your grandkids and all this, but it didn't go that way. And because I didn't understand, and my mom was diagnosed with schizophrenia, because I was a young mom and a young woman, I didn't know what signs to look for. I didn't understand the disease, right? Now, fast forward, I just graduated from Cochise College in Arizona, where I actually took a behavioral health science course. And that's what I graduated in. So it gave me a deeper understanding of the different mental disorders, which schizophrenia was one of them. So I was able to now really kind of connect the dots and understand about, what my mother was going through. It wasn't that she was doing something intentional to me, to hurt me. It's just that she didn't have the capacity at that time to be the mother that she may have wanted to be. Hence, I, made up in my mind that was a cycle I wanted to break. It was unconscious, but it was still conscious, where I acted it out because I didn't was not raised with my mom or my parents or my dad. I ended up making a choice like, hey, I'm going to be here for my kids, whether you know, however way I could show up at that time. I knew that I was going to be there for them. And that's what I chose to do. I chose to be with them regardless and raise them, man or no man, husband, no husband, whatever it was, I made a choice. And that's what I did. And they turned out to be okay. Through God's grace and mercy, it wouldn't all be. But they turned out to be very caring, responsible adults. They've all went through their stuff, right? We all still go through it, but for the most part, they've maintained and stayed the course. And this is with a mom who, me being their mother, who struggled with her own mental health concerns, right? And then their father, who was, on drugs, drug addiction, right? A drug addicted parent, and they still came out okay, considering, right? They're not locked up, they're not in jail, they're not, out here being hurtful and doing crimes and things like that. So that's important to me. That's important. It's a reflection, and it might be a reflection of me, which I don't give myself much credit for, but I'm learning to acknowledge that I did have a part to play in it, if that makes sense, right? So let's go into this. So the core and how I showed up. I didn't show up in I never pursued women relationships. I just never did. There was no point. I don't know what was in me. I just had no interest. Not that I didn't want to have women friendships. I just had no interest in wanting to actually befriend women. And maybe that core trauma, or that core maybe disappointment that I think I carried for so long, with the lack of the relationship or connection that I had with my mom, or didn't have. So I went ahead and I just, my thing was I wanted a husband and my kids, and I would have been happy in that world. That was enough for me. I didn't really go the step thinking like, oh, well, how does it look to have a healthy relationship with a woman, or have a bestie? And, I had besties when I was in grade school and stuff like that, and maybe even in high school. But after that, goodbye. I just was not. Like I said, my concern was seeking something outside of what I didn't have. I didn't have the family and the white picket fence and the kids and the perfect husband and the perfect this and that. I didn't have that, but that's what I was seeking, because that's what socially um, I was taught to seek after, right? So with that being said, I did not have, I had examples of marriage, or Black marriages, African American marriages, that are still here today, and together today. Um, and I'm sure they went through their stuff, but the example and how they led and how they treated their families and how they treated their husband and how they treated their spouse and their kids, I kind of picked up on different things, right? And that's what I did, because I kind of had to grow up a little fast. I had to learn to protect myself, guard myself as best I knew to do. And I went ahead and I did the best I could during that time, right? Did I have a real understanding of what type of man to pick? Heck no. I didn't went through, 3 marriages, right? And I did not. I had no understanding. That's because I did not have the father. And I'm not sharing this. I'm sharing this out of a place of vulnerability and my truth. It's not meant to try to get some kudos and, oh, poor Bolanile. No, I'm not a victim to any of that. That old saying about turn your purpose into your pain into purpose. And so I'm taking the initiative to do just that. If someone is able to learn from that, heal from that, identify with that, connect with that, then absolutely, I'm glad that I was able to do my part, right? Um, Also, too, yeah, so I didn't have that, didn't have the parents, didn't have that. So what I did was I kind of picked up on seeing how I could discern. I think I had a really keen sense of discernment when I was younger. Because if I were to get like strung out or something, I knew I didn't have the support, right? So wasn't nobody going to be checking on me, little Belani, if I were to go down the wrong path. So there was something in me that really, I know something. I know it was the Most High. I know God had a hold of my life, right? And He guided me, and the Most High, my ancestors, they guided me throughout the years to get me to where I am today. I made a choice that I wasn't going to go down the same road as my mother, even though that she probably could not have, she didn't know how to handle that schizophrenia. I don't know what it is to be schizophrenic. I don't know what it is to deal with that type of mental illness. Have I went through depression? Heck yeah. Have I went through, instability in my thoughts? Absolutely. But what I do know is that through those years, I've always decided to get some type of help. I've always been in some type of therapy. I've always had some type of spiritual base, or even when I was going to church, I had some, I knew enough to get myself around others that could kind of hold me together, or at least direct me when they saw me spiraling, or going off that track, right? And remembering the influences of the other women that I saw myself, the community of women that I saw. We lived right next door in Chicago, next to, I had to say, to a neighbor who was, they were Muslim. And so we used to go to the temple with them on 71st and in Stony Island. And they come to find out that I can't say names, but she was the secretary to Malcolm X. So I grew up with this richness of culture and community. And even though my mom, I wasn't raised around her path of her being in the civil rights movement somehow is kind of like it just is in my blood to advocate for righteousness and for justice, and to see people and just have a voice to say, look, no, this is not right, we need to do something about it. So I guess the, better lack of word, I just have that in my blood, in my family, to want to make a difference and do my part. So again, I'm getting sidetracked, but here again, hey, this is the second one. We're talking about social healing among women. The truth we don't always say. Relationships between women can carry unspoken tension. How many of us have had relationships with women and we'll be thinking something because we want to, we just want to kiki and kaka and all that type of stuff. But if we see our friend or our sister making a decision that might not be the best for her, right? You know what I'm saying? We tend to, well, I tend to not want to say anything to her, to my friend, my sister friend, because she'll get offended, or she'll be like, girl, who are you to tell me, Um, you remember that scene in Baby Boy when she was talking to her girlfriend on the phone, and uh, she was like, "Girl, I know you're not talking to this. He beating your ass, right? So now you want to talk crap about my relationship?" And so these are the things that we go through. So we feel like, okay, if we overstep our boundaries, I can't really say nothing because I'm in the same daggone situation, right? Or you done worse, right? So it keeps us from actually saying, okay. But I think what happens is you have to really start with yourself before you can start giving advice, right? Start trying to tell somebody that their way of doing it is wrong or whatever it is. Because it really isn't not about right or wrong. It's about what is healthy for you, what is evolving you, what is helping you to align with all of the good that the universe has for you, right? You being your best self, you living your purpose, being aligned with that, right? Attracting the good things in your life, not attracting some bull crap, right? Not attracting toxic masculinity, not attracting, habits of bad habits and patterns of drug addiction, or, hurting people, right? Through manipulation or connery or whatever. That's not, you might get rewarded for it, but that's a temporary reward. And at the end of the day, we all get older and we all have to meet our maker with how we have conducted ourselves in this world, in this paradigm, right? So again, family dynamics. So yeah, the unspoken relationships between women can carry unspoken tension. And we know that, right? And usually it always be about a man. It always, at least my experience is that it has always been the breakdown of our friendship has been the center of a man. Isn't that crazy? and they're getting to benefit. And there's some good men out here. I don't want to be out here male bashing and all that stuff. That's not my goal. But the thing is that men sometimes can take advantage because they're toxic, right? You're also toxic because you are attracting that in your life. So men often, or people often, take advantage of that, or they can see that as a weakness, right? And they will take advantage of that to manipulate it to get what they want, or play other women against each other. That's their goal, right? To keep us divided. Because you've heard the stories of how men, or married men or married women, have slept with another person, or committed infidelity outside of that, outside of their marriage bed. And so it causes distrust. It causes disloyalty. It causes harm, because how can I now trust you, sister, to have my back, but you back here wanting to get with my man? You using your Delilah spirit, and hey, you know what I'm saying? That's how we do. Let's keep it real. But I'm a person that you have to choose to use your powers for good, or you choose them for evil. Each side pays. But I don't want to be on the side that pays to do something evil to somebody, because these are universal principles, boo. They all come circle back to you, and they show up in your life. So I choose to reap and sow good seeds. Now, sometimes there's a lesson in that, and hopefully you get the lesson. But I am not going to be, I don't have it in my nature to pay back vengeance for vengeance. I just don't. I don't see, it just becomes a circle of going around and around and around. I'm not going to be petty like that. You could call me, oh, girl, she take the L, or she ain't speak up for herself. No, because I have learned to pick my battles, because the Bolanile that would pop off and act a fool, and then it ended me up in jail, or ended me up someplace I didn't need to be, because I couldn't hold my peace, or my emotions end up controlling me, because I wanted to show I'm about that life. No, I don't want to be about that life. I want to be about the peaceful, agape love life. And I understand there is, yeah, you can't be naive, but I am in control of, the Most High is in control of what it is I want to experience. And when you really start to understand that, then you get it. My life is not yours, and yours is not mine. And I don't need to take anything from anybody, because I already got it from me. God already got what he got from me. So anyway, so yeah, the truth we don't always want to say. Relationships between women can carry unspoken tension, compassion, resentment, silent competition. This is human. It's not failure. But hey, ladies, we got to get it together, because you could be friends with somebody, another woman, and you realize, and been friends with them for years, and then come to find out that they were actually hating on you, or had some hidden resentment or ill will towards you. That's the betrayal part, because in all of the years or time that you known another woman that you were close with, they couldn't come to you and talk about it. You couldn't come to me and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to carry that resentment, or we're going to act it out, and I'm gonna show her, and blah, blah, blah. No, you really ain't doing nothing but hurting yourself at the end of the day. Because I said, I just am a big believer in universal, what you put out there is what you get back. And I can sleep well at night, because I know that I don't intentionally, I'm not saying I ain't never hurt nobody, but whatever I have done to anyone uh, that has been that, I'm mature enough to go and apologize and make it right and clear the slate. Because I don't want to be carrying any negative karmic debt. We got enough stuff going on. That's just me. I'm not too small to apologize or correct it. That's what the Bible talks about, correction, right? With your brother, and 77 times 7 is a reason for that. Even though we know that the forgiveness is for you, and, not letting your past dictate your future, blah, blah, blah. But you've got to reconcile with that. Because if you do not reconcile with bitterness and things that come up in your um, conscious or hidden, you don't deal with that, it becomes stagnated energy and anger and anxiety, and it'll come out in other ways. And I don't know if you really want that or not. So, okay, resentment, where the resentment begins, the unacknowledged pain, feeling unseen, unsupported, experience tied to relationships and identity, of course, right? Mothers and daughters, family dynamics, conflicts that can last for years. You don't even know. Like, a cousin of mine, and we have a very small family. She's 3 years older than me. When we grew up together, with my auntie, her mom, and my uncle. We grew up, and she's not talking to me. Years ago, it's probably been about 5 to 7 years now. We had a disagreement. And mind you, we never actually didn't get along. We were very close, but we had that. It was got heated. Okay. Yeah, it did. I was drinking, but, I did attempt. Remember I said I did attempt to extend a, olive branch, and she did not want to. I guess she was done, So that's fine. I did my part. That's on her. And I still love her. It doesn't even matter. I still love her. So let's get through this, because I don't want this to be too long. So, women in the workplace, competition versus collaboration. How many women have you known to either work and support you in the corporate world, or behind the scenes working against you? I've experienced both. And I'm certain that you all have, at some point. Because whenever you are intimidated by somebody, that is a clear indication of your own insecurity within you. Has nothing to do with the other woman. Nothing, never has that. And these are real issues and things, that elephants in the room, that we don't really talk about, right? Judgment and exclusion. Oh man. Like the woman with the issue of blood, or Delilah, or whoever the people in the women that I'm sorry, I'm trying to think. Whoever the women are in the Bible that people made a mockery of, the woman who I guess was sleeping around, known as the prostitute, right? I can't think of it right now. It'll come to me later. But the women who were known as derelicts, and just like, doing things that, weren't ladylike. But we don't know their reasons on why they did that. We don't know. That makes you better than somebody? No, it doesn't. So, but there's a lot of scandal behind women who sleep with married men. There's a lot of scandal and opinion about women who are addicts, or get caught up on drugs. There is a lot of speculation and opinion and judgment about women who have abortions. You see what I'm saying? Everybody's got something to say, but you ain't that woman, and you don't know what her story is. You don't know why she's sleeping around from man to man, because something in her is broken. But instead of us having compassion and understanding about it, we want to be quick to judge and throw rocks. It's just somehow in us, we feel like that makes us better than. But I don't tolerate that. Not at all. So, social betrayal inside competition, we talked about that. Sometimes the tension, sometimes our tension isn't just misunderstanding, it's betrayal. Um, It shows up in friendships, families, and even spiritual spaces. Spaces meant for healing can become spaces of comparison and competition. And I learned my lesson that with women when I started going to church, which is why I left. Because I had maybe this high expectation of how the women of the church should act instead of understanding that they're human, they go through their stuff too. But I was a young babe in Christ and I just didn't, I don't know, I just, yeah, I left and I was out of church for 20 plus years and didn't care to go back because I felt like my relationship to the Most High actually grew. And then I had a better understanding. I learned a better understanding of myself and what the church was for. I mean, this is the church, this temple. That's the church, right? I take the church with me wherever I go. That's my belief. Now they talk about, congregating and, assembling yourselves with like believers. That's fine. But those same like believers were ones that left spiritual scars on me as well. So, and I've worked through that or working through it. Excuse me. I've worked through that. So I understand that, if I want the grace and mercy, or we want grace and mercy from the Most High, we have to also offer that grace and mercy to others. Okay. And so that's what I do. I'm not perfected in it, but I do try. Um, what are we doing? Okay. Returning to healing. We're going to be closing out. This isn't about blaming women. This is really, like I say, about awareness. And this is why I have brought this platform, Women Healing Globally, to bring awareness within ourselves of related to the 9 dimensions of health and wellness. Trust me, if you sit down at night and before when you are relaxing and sitting, I bet you there is something in 1 or 9, maybe even all, have some of them, 2 or 3, one of them, maybe none, but that's not possible because nobody is perfect, that you have neglected, right? That I have neglected. This is why we have to address those in every area. It's important in order to maintain that balance in life. If you've got one thing out, I mean, if you're focused on correcting one thing, there's always several more that you can be working on, because I don't know if we ever master it, but we certainly can get to a place where it is at least manageable. And it is, it's not, like I say about emotions. Emotions are used for you to gauge. Don't let your emotions operate and run you. You run the emotions. Because if not, don't let the emotions lead you. Don't let emotions lead you. You lead the emotions. Because if you do not, out of act of anger, out of an act of rage, out of act of whatever it is, it's a place for those. But if you act out to hurt somebody or bring hurt, harm, and danger to yourself or to others, your life can change just like that. That's why they call it, like, when a person, what do they call it when somebody does rage, when they, commit suicide, or when they hurt somebody or, murder somebody, that is, man, out of just like that. So no, I don't want that. Religion, boundaries, and grace. I kind of shared a little bit about that. And sometimes we hide behind religion. I have, instead of doing the work, doing the healing work. Forgiveness and boundaries can coexist. Grace means releasing bitterness, not accepting harm. You can set boundaries, but you don't have to set them in a way to hurt somebody, or, whatever, right? So my closing reflection, and I thank you for sticking with me. even though there's nobody in the room but me. But I'm grateful because guess what? I did it. I did it. So, where can you extend grace? This is my closing remark. Closing reflection. Where can you extend grace? Where can you set healthier boundaries? Um, yeah, where can we set healthier boundaries? At the end of the day, it's important. It's important to know that boundaries, I didn't know nothing about boundaries, and we'll do that another episode. But I just wanted to get on here and say, look, you are worth it. You know, you are worth it. And your feelings, your emotions, whatever you've been through, whatever you are going through in life, it's worth you being heard. Even the sides that weren't so good, that some things that you did to bring hurt, harm, or danger to yourself and others. You have an opportunity to give yourself grace and mercy, stop the pattern, one of that, acknowledge. Once you acknowledge what it is, then you can go on to healing, make your amends, right? Make your amends and give yourself the grace and mercy and give others the grace and mercy as well. So again, I am Bolanile Patterson. I thank you for having a space for me to hear. I hope that my message and part of this can help to heal another sister. And I encourage you to join me next time on the next episode, because we're going to go through all of the dimensions and talk about this thing here, okay? About health and wellness, and through my cosmic living, my balanced cosmic living, and the 9 dimensions of health and wellness. With that being said, continue to be well and prosper. Until next time, toodaloo. Bye.